So this is the second part to that first video. So on the first video, what you saw is you saw me disassemble the whole front end. You saw me remove the springs, the coils, and then I chopped them up. I explained how many coils you have to cut so you can get the right drop. And if you take a look at that video, you'll notice pretty much a step-by-step process on how to do it. Okay, so this ended up being what I took off from the front, and this ended up being what I took off from the rear. I took a little bit less from the back because I wanted the back to have to be a little bit higher. I just wanted a little bit of a rake. And also, if I put some stuff in the trunk like speakers or whatever, it's probably gonna bring it back down. And if there's people in the back seat, I want to make sure there's some cushion. But yeah, that's it. Putting this together is pretty much, you just have to go in backwards order from how you took it apart. You want to make sure that the coil is set exactly the same as the opposite side, because if you don't set it the same, it's going to be off. There's going to be a slight lean, so you want to avoid that. The way I put the coil in, I just slip it in, and then I try to do my best to get in the spring pocket. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that the coil is pretty much straight with the spring pocket. It's going to be, you need it to be right in the center, because your shock mounts to the top of inside the coil to the top of the spring pocket. So I'm going to look at the other side just to make sure I'm in the correct spot. I think I am. Now, all I'm doing is making sure that it's perfectly centered in that spring pocket. It looks like everything's ready to go. Now I'm gonna jack it up, get some stuff out of the way, and make this happen. So I noticed that I'm missing the boot for the lower ball joint. Fortunately, I had one sitting in the garage, so I'm gonna throw that on there. So I found a big socket that fits right over it. Thank goodness. There you go. So I'm glad I found that socket. The size that I used is 1 7/8. Actually, it wasn't. It was a 2-inch. But it looks like you can fit the 1 7/8 or the 2-inch over it. So all I did was put that lower ball joint on there, slid it in, and now I'm gonna put the top ball joint on there. Wow. Before I put the top one in, I'm gonna get the brake rotor on this side of the spindle, so I don't have any issues later with buttoning it up. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 2 bolts on the ball joints. It's just it's going to tighten up the spindle to the control arms. And then the top one. Oh, wrong one. Maybe it's this one. Yep. That's the one. Okay, now I'm gonna grab a wrench and tighten them up. So I just finished I just finished putting the bolts on the ball joints. I had to get a different nut. Now I'm gonna go ahead and lower the jack and start buttoning that up. Okay, so that's in there. And that's it. Rotors are pretty straightforward. There's just 2 bolts, 1, 2, and then a hose. You don't have to disconnect the hose. Just keep the, when you're taking everything apart, just put some type of a cable, a large zip tie, something just to keep the hose from stretching out. All right, so everything's looking good. Ball joints are in. Bottom ball joint, top ball joints, nuts are in. I'm gonna have to loosen that and adjust it again. Springs are in there. Control arm, we have to hook up this bad boy. And that's pretty much it. I guess the last thing we have to do is connect the shocks. Hopefully that's not a pain in the ass. There's always something, right? So, see, there's a little bit of corrosion on there, and that's the reason why I'm doing the WD-40. But yeah, you don't have to do WD-40. As a matter of fact, don't do WD-40. Do anti-seize, but it'll be fine. Okay. Castellated nut, so I was just aligning the hole so I can put the cotter pin. That's all I was doing. So now all I'm gonna do is slide the shock in from the bottom, from down here, and just hook it up. I do have to stretch it out. That's the reason why it's taking me a second. It's okay, no big deal. So here's the shock. All I'm gonna do is slide it from the bottom up and get it to align in that hole. Hopefully it does, and then we should be good to go. So as you saw, I put the shock to the bottom up, and then it's coming up there. See, and up there, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this worn out bushing, because that's all I have at the moment. Put the washer and then the nut, and that's it. Okay, it's gonna take a second. Okay, so it's just hand tight, and now I'm gonna, down here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a bolt in there to hold the shock from the bottom. so pretty much this is the result of cutting the coils 1.5 coil length. They dropped it about 3 inches. It's pretty on the ground. I'm sure it's gonna go a little bit lower as the coils settle into the spring pockets, but this is pretty low. I still have to do the back, but I'm actually gonna drive it like this with the back up a little bit because it has an interesting, nice raked look to it. I'll probably end up cutting the back ones as well, but there you go. Now you get a chance to see exactly what it is, how to cut the coils. You see exactly how much I cut, and you get to see how it looks in the car once it's done. I'll drive it around, and I'll take some more videos so you get to see how it settles down.